The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death, and I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent power, source, and force of love and creation forever. And that's where I am. That's where I always am. One with the most super intelligent power, source, and force of love and creation, expansion, authority, abundance, aka what? Wealth. On this dead money Christmas. Went in the truck stop just now, rinsed out my eyeballs. Hell, I felt like taking a $20 bill, holding it up, saying this ain't worth nothing, and just throwing it on the floor and leaving. Felt like it. Chose not to. Could have tipped the crypt keeper working the counter. Man, nothing against crypt keepers. Good Lord. I don't even know what to say. I think not that I ever think I have it bad, but I mean, I couldn't even imagine being a crypt keeper, keeping the crypt of the Love's fuel desk at 3 a.m. Christmas morning or Christmas Eve night, since a lot of people it doesn't become the next day until they go to sleep. But either way, I don't know what her sleep schedule is. I can't call it. Shout out to Hat Flying DBDR on my post tab. That's the first video I listened to this morning. Old DBDR's thoughts on the Christmas. At about 500, this is 509 miles. In 247 miles, the Royal We stops to pick up some Amazon packages, which somewhat shockingly actually were delivered to the Amazon locker in Rockwall, Texas. So including a new pair of shoes for the winter. Keep my feet dry. I've already had the wet feet a couple of times due to the prior pair of shoes ordered on Amazon that did not arrive. Somebody must have YOLO'd with their job or something. Some such. What up to the chat? Can't quite read the comments because of the limitations of my boomer old man eyesight. But I've chose to work on Christmas, and please commenter. This is not. None of this is intended to have a go at you. It may sound that way, but I do appreciate the comments, and they often spark something in my mind. What's up, Bulk Hungry? Merry Christmas, sir. Ho, 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 big wad of dough. There you go. Indeed, big wad of dough hit my account last night. I got my paycheck. Yeah. Well, it's not a big wad. What still seems like a big wad of dough anyway. For what I'm out here doing, as you well know, it really ain't much. It's about half or 1/3 of what it should be. Were there justice in the world? But yeah, Leslie, we're not picking on you. Good to see you. I chose to work on Christmas. Now, about long haul trucking, I would have had to schedule my off time if I wanted to be off on Christmas. I'm just not a big fan of scheduling off time. It kind of fucks shit up in a lot of ways, truck driving. But from my perspective, although with the fatigue factors, I'm going to have to start making myself take like 3 days off every 3 to 4 weeks. It's just it's the way it's going to go. But all I'm doing today is driving. I slept at a truck stop last night. I got a good night's sleep. Did my morning routine, which is, of course, very important. Now, why I'm in a convoy is why am I in a convoy at 3 a.m.? This is strange on Christmas morning. Why are we convoying, boys? Let's not do that. But got some trucks trying to remake the 60s movie Convoy. And I'm driving about 500 miles, and then I'm stopping at another truck stop. And I've never been a holiday person. Some of that is probably the way I was raised, but I think the holidays are just, in my opinion, it's mostly bullshit. Mostly. And I think that video on my post tab, if anybody listens to that, soak up some of the wisdom of the youth. I believe he really hits it on the nail on the head with respect to what Christmas actually is for many, many people. And then, of course, the social pressures to, the tradition and to pretend like it's this wonderful thing and it's rewarding. But it's not rewarding and fulfilling. And again, I'm not accusing Leslie of this. Now, what I've been critical of recently is that, American society can choose to be intolerant of anybody working on Christmas. It could say, hey, the truck stop's closed. And the people could say, we don't want to think about our friends and neighbors working the fuel desk at the Loves, slaving away for a corporation, right? And then, there would be enough of a domino effect and then my company would say, well, if you want to drive on Christmas, that's your business. But, we're only going to schedule your loads to where you don't have to. If you want to take all of Christmas Eve and all of Christmas Day off, you'll still have plenty of time to get your job done, right? I mean, society could operate that way. So in a way, me working on Christmas, whether by choice or not, I think it says a lot about society. And Christmas never was what it's been purported to be. It's a psyop. It's mind control. It's the psyop of the nuclear family. We all pretend, not we, but society pretends like just it's wonderful and things are great no matter what. And it's a bunch of bullshit. So in a way, to me, just continuing my activities more or less normally is it's appropriate and more honest or less dishonest, in my opinion. And then, yes, many people are forced to work on the holidays. So your point stands, Leslie. Not that I'm working on Christmas, it's that other folks are working on Christmas. And if anybody remembers my famous live stream, Benton's Christmas in the truck, parked behind a Food Lion in Charlotte, I'm pretty sure the only reason that happened was because I wasn't able to get loaded. And I think I spent pretty much all weekend behind the Food Lion. Or I don't remember what day it is. Is Christmas always on a Thursday? I don't know. Or Friday or whatever it is. What is today? Friday? Yeah, today's Thursday. I guess I got paid a day early then. because of the holiday. Does anybody remember when everything used to go through after the holiday? Financial transactions. I think probably the financial system is so uh, just wrung out and redlined. It's so maxed out. They probably have to push all this stuff through a day early, or the motherfucker, when they try to start it back up again after the holiday, the bitch probably won't. They probably can't get it started again. And people want to talk about food stamps, and that's a psyop. Look, Walmart would most likely go out of business if food stamps weren't a thing. As far as I can tell, Walmart's entire business model is dependent upon food stamps. People spending them there, and then their workforce receiving them for the most part. The store staff, anyway. For example, there's a Buc-ee's not too far away from this truck stop I'm going to. And hypothetically, if I wanted to go down there and have some brisket, I could go down there and have some brisket on Christmas Day. And I had to tell my company, I said, listen, I don't believe in going to these warehouses and these customers past about noon on Christmas Eve day and at all on Christmas Day. And if they're there working, I don't control that. I control the part where I'm not driving onto the property in a big rig past, I'd say about 2 p.m. at the latest on Christmas Eve. Because then it's actually Christmas. Because Christmas Eve day, it's kind of not the holiday yet. That makes sense. Walmart's still open. They're down there shopping until they drop. Consume. So, if you can't get me there by about 2 p.m. on Christmas Eve, then no. And that's what it takes. And, what we see with the American people is they're so brainwashed and mind controlled. There's simply no end to what the American people will tolerate. They just go along with anything. And then, so certain things they want to say tradition, yeah, it's a tradition right up until it's not. And this is why I talk about communism, and America is communist in certain ways. And part of that is eventually there's just not going to be Christmas. And there's not going to be, the only reason there's a Christian church is because it suits the system's purposes. Christmas can be used in a way to serve the system's purpose, apparently. Right? Yeah, what a country. That's right. Whole country. And I do understand that some people still have their family gatherings, but even that, I would say, has been fractured for quite some time. I grew up on my dad's side of the family. We had a family dinner every year. It wasn't on Christmas. But it was during the holiday season, and my grandfather had hosted everybody at the country club. My famous grandfather, and part of that was the way he grew up, and it was, nuclear family and extended family, and generally everybody lived in the same area, you know. And back then, seemed like most of my relations lived in the same general area. And you kind of did it because that's what they wanted, right? It, might as well go lay eyes on your kinfolk, right? And men like to size each other up and all of that too. You got the ridiculous, absurd, farcical, male hierarchies and all this stuff. See what everybody's up to, because it's not like you're really keeping up with them during the rest of the year, right? But then isn't that kind of the hint that we really don't give a fuck individually, that we don't really keep up with them during the year? Now there's social media and Facebook and all that. That's not what I mean. Yeah. And then and see, I'm just over the performative aspects of family. Like, I ran into a couple of my cousins, years ago, and just ran into one of them at a Starbucks or whatever. I can be pretty far out there, and I'm a unusual, strange person. And I was pretty deep into the homelessness at the time. Probably wasn't even attempting to seem unstrange. And so, but then it's the whole performative aspects of, exchanging emails, because, I don't, even if I had a phone number at the time, I don't want nobody in my phone. I had somebody from this channel recently emailed me and was like, "Hey, text me," or no, left it on my comments. And it's like, man, it's a reminder that we don't know each other. Because whoever knows me knows I don't want nobody in my phone. I don't get phone calls. I don't get texts. And that's how I like it. Don't call me. Don't text me. Email me. Right. Or if there's a trust factor, we can have phone numbers if we need them. Like if we're, in the same city on a collaborative mission, and now it's almost like a walkie-talkie. It's like, well, okay, if some shit goes sideways, I need to be able to get in touch with you, right? I'll see, but otherwise, we see each other in person historically. In my world, and then texting. Why would I want to text with somebody? It just, why? For what? What do I need to be texted that you can't? Somebody with my email can't email. I'm just, and I'm not, it's nothing against that particular person. It's a general thing. So just for me to even go to the trouble of, well, here's my email address and writing it down. So then, like the next day, there's a Razorback game, and that's big, in my family and where I'm from. So I email my cousins, and I'm like, "What are y'all doing for the game?" "Oh, we're watching it at such and such's house." And I'm thinking I might get the invite. Those motherfuckers never replied to my email. And I'm not necessarily above just inviting myself to some shit. So I'm like, well, if y'all don't mind, I might want to come watch it with y'all. Never heard back. I'll probably never talk to them again. So in my world, why do I need to do the part where I pretend when I run into my cousin randomly at a Starbucks? Why do we got to go through this whole rigmarole? See? And the dog and pony show. Why do I need to go through a dog and pony show of Christmas? I don't. Bah, motherfucking humbug, except I don't have a beef with Christmas. I have a beef with, and look, I'm as fake and phony as anybody else situationally, but I just don't, what's the benefit? I don't think it benefits anybody. And they say, oh, the children, no, no. The children know most of all that it's bullshit. Nope. All you got to do is listen to DVDRs talking about his experiences growing up with Christmas. Children are the least delusional about what Christmas is. Now, yeah, they probably enjoy it. I'm not saying they don't have fun, but guess what? They generally have fun pretty much no matter what is going on. Children are really good at having fun regardless. I've seen eviction videos out of Memphis, Tennessee, where this lady's getting evicted and her foster kids are running around playing the whole time. She's freaking out, trying to call courts and judges, trying to boss everybody around that's setting her shit out to the curb. The kids, they're nonplussed. They're running around having a good time. It's just another day for them. Five cops are cruising. Yeah, there you go. Lots of Agent Smiths in the Matrix. Oh, I've got some Agent Smith stories for you. Got a lot of Agent Smith stories, but yeah. Um, so the first thing that happened to me this morning when I left the confines of the big rig is I looked out across a wide open parking lot between my truck and the Loves, and I thought about not going in, but my eyeballs felt like they needed a rinse, and I'm not going to do that without washing my hands. Well, in either way, I still need to sink. So grabbed my soap and headed in because I'm not using. It's like, oh, imagine knowing about all these conspiracies and the chemicals and everything and how horrible stuff is, but you just hit the button on the soap dispenser in the fucking Love's truck stop. All right. Well, what's the good of knowing of all this stuff if I'm just gonna put that antibacterial goop on my hands, and I've got a soap dispenser from the rest area story coming up, if I can remember. And apologies if I sound agitated. Some of this is just I need a little bit of the crankiness to sort of sustain the energy of the performance. I don't need it, but it's helpful, I should say. That's right. Merry Christmas. Seeing some names. Seeing at least one name for the first time. What's up, hard hitting? What's happening, partner? Wow, motherfucking humbug indeed, Jack. So it's dead. Nothing is happening. The proverbial not even a mouse Christmas morning. And I'm already thinking, well, I started my pre-trip inspection. How much, it's kind of far to the truck stop. How long is all this going to take? I should be right at the end of my pre-trip inspection. When I get back. And so I take off. I'm a fast walker. Out of nowhere, here come a truck pulling in, and I got to cross over where the fuel island is. Now I could kind of jog to the left and go sort of in front of the pumps, but that's kind of out of the way. Here he comes. He's going to perfectly intersect me. And then we'll have to do that thing where if he sees me, is he got to save face by stopping and letting me pass in front of him when I'd rather he just, I'll hang back and let him go, and that whole retarded dance. I just break into a fucking run. I'm like, well, shit, I need the exercise anyway. Fuck it. So I, jog out, get in front of the big rig. That's the first thing that happened. So mathematically, what are the motherfucking odds of that? So I guess it's good to be reminded right out of the gate of the waking dream, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. I guess it's good. Get in there, get my eyeballs rinsed out, make it back to the truck without any further incidents. But So yesterday, and I don't like using these front loaders. I don't like the laundry machines, but I didn't quite think it through well enough to realize that I probably would have been better off waiting to do my laundry today, but that's all right. I had at least one load that needed to get done, and so now I got more laundry, but it doesn't have to be done. So it's like if I feel like it, I will, but if I don't, I won't. But so I got what was mandatory taken care of, which that's the responsible thing to do, and responsible to myself, not owing anybody a debt. Do the right thing. Yeah, just when you think you know somebody, they turn out to be an Agent Smith. That's right, Leslie. Who I trust, who I trust, me. Who you trust, man. And the fact is, a lot of people can't even trust themselves. So, but yeah, Flavor Flav trusted himself, and it worked out. Suspicious for 2 years. Well, but that's a thought experiment. See, and this is where I'll be a little critical of the commenter, just a little bit. You heard something, which is it piqued your curiosity, presumably. Why didn't you look further into it, or did you look further into it? So that's like it's a thought experiment, you know. And somebody could make the case that Agent Smith was the good guy, but then Neo from the Matrix in some way would be representative of Christ, and then you get into the whole Christ Antichrist trip. So some would say that perhaps Lucifer or Antichrist is actually the good guy. You see how quickly it turns into a completely different thing. Yeah. See how quickly it turns into something else. But yeah, thank you for your comments. Yeah, I used your comment to make a larger point, but I understand. I have a certain way of communicating that where I'm from, you can't really take offense to that style of communication because there are people who might like to have 10 fist fights a day, but it's just not practical. For your average person to get in 10 fist fights a day. So it's just kind of how we talk to each other where I'm from. It's like, yeah, that was a little offensive what that fella just said to me, but if I'm going to fight him, I'm going to have to fight the next fella and then the fella after him. And there's really not enough time in the day, even if and how many concussions can a fella withstand before, he's no longer any good to anybody, right? You kind of have to pick your battles in that way. That's what I'm used to. I might tell somebody how it is and they might tell me how it is and we just got to deal with it. It's like, well, fair enough. Fair enough, buddy. Fuck you too. Have a nice day. But to say all that without actually saying the fighting words, it's like, oh man, you're really gonna now we have to fight. And then meanwhile, Benton somehow figured out how to maneuver all that without having to fist fight anybody. It's like, yeah, my mind's my weapon, motherfucker. What do I win for? I don't. What do I win? Bloody knuckles. And, it's not like I'm not going to get punched in the face. And I figured out pretty early on, some people just like getting punched in the face. I mean, it's really what it comes down to. Like, why do I have to fight somebody because they're calling me names and they want to be punched in the face? Like, this is crazy. What do I get out of this? Leave me alone. I'm still pretty. I'm 50 years old. I'm still pretty, man. So a good motherfucker trying to get punched in the face. Leslie in a red dress. There you go. Putting thoughts in my head, Leslie. Yeah, that's right. Some of them want to be abused. Shit, I'm, I've always been a little self-flagellating. When we talk about worshiper and object of worship contained within the same space, well, I guess that works with the punishment too, right? So yesterday I went to do this laundry. They only got two washers, but for some reason they got four dryers. Nothing's happening. It's Christmas Eve day. It's dead. I shit you not. No sooner do I get my clothes in the washer and I'm starting to go for the coins. I got my feet planted. My trash bag's on the floor because I dumped out my clothes. I'm about to bend down to reach for my trash bag, and here comes random normie NPC bozo. And remember, NPC normie bozos don't know what to do. They're lost, but they fake it till they make it. So he just boldly, and it's not a big laundry room, so he just completely invades and takes over the space in a way. So I detect somebody in my personal space. I'm like, all right, what is this? What's happening? So I just freeze. My most common reaction to this, and here's where you really can learn a lot about the environment, because a lot of this, and this is all a spiritual thing, it really operates based on the dynamics that are built into the dead flesh of humanity. And a lot of this turns out to be body language and proximity. And I've gotten into many confrontations with people where I say, hey, man, my feet haven't moved this whole time. I said, my feet have been planted and I haven't moved them. So I don't know what you're talking about. Because, they'll be trying to maneuver and accuse and act like I've done so. I said, meanwhile, buddy, I've been standing here the whole time. I hadn't moved a muscle. I had my feet planted. You showed up and I froze. And now we're having this conversation. Like, what is this? You're in my space, homie. And especially when they start advancing towards me, I'm like, yo, my feet are planted, motherfucker. Why are you coming towards me? And they'll be walking towards me, denying that. I say, you're running up on me. No, I'm not. You're in my. I said, how am I in your face when my feet haven't moved in the last 5 minutes? How am I in your face? This is crazy. And see, I don't even have these conversations with people. I don't even engage on those levels anymore. I completely skip that part. I just freeze and go into my deep inner world. I just leave my body. I'm gone. I surrender to the moment. I just leave my body and have an out of body experience, and I just watch this motherfucker from behind myself. I'm gonna see what this guy does. We're gonna watch him. This has got to be a spiritual attack, right? Yeah. So he approaches me on the right, which is where the motherfucking dryers are. And then I just kind of cock my head, give him that old bitten look, like, man, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? And I ain't moving a muscle. I'm holding my ground. Stand your ground. So then he walks around to the left side of me, and now he's just standing all on top of my trash bag. And yeah, I understand he doesn't have any way of knowing that's my trash bag, because this is a bull in a china shop just bursts into a fucking new environment and don't bother to observe it. So now he's just blocked my. Now I can't do anything because I need to retrieve my trash bag. Plus I'm considerate. So he's going to use if he's going to use the washing machine, because I started to use that one and then I changed my mind. That's how my trash bag ended up down there. That's what I put my dirty clothes in. And then, so now I'm looking at him from the left, cock my head to the left, just looking at the motherfucker, like, what is this? Because what I would have done was burst in. I would have observed what the person was doing, and I would have said, oh, if I give this motherfucker about 120 seconds, he'll be done. He will probably get the fuck out of the way, and then I can do my business. But no, what does the NPC normie want to do? They want to collaborate. This is the watering hole, folks. They want to have a communal laundry experience. So it's not a coincidence that he didn't show up to the laundry room when it was dead as a doornail. That's what I did. I showed up there when nothing was happening. I started spontaneously performing. Now here comes NPC Normie, and he's going to ape my performance. I'm the spontaneous catalyst for this motherfucker's life. Because if he could act boldly in the world, why does he need to wait around for me? How come nothing's happening until Benton climbs out of his truck? How come there ain't no laundry to be done until Benton puts his laundry in? See? Why not? Why not? And people say, what's the big deal? Exactly, what's the big deal? Why can't this bozo control himself enough to hang back for 180 seconds? Why? Why can't he do that? He could. So if you say to me, what's the big deal if this motherfucker waits 180 seconds? That's not a big deal. Now I could, just be like, hey man, how about you hold the fuck up for 3 minutes, but until I'm done, if you don't mind. And I actually said a version of that to some fellas who burst in at a TA and thought they were going to clean the money out of the machine. They look like technicians to me. I said, hey man, give me about 120 seconds and it's all yours. Basically like, y'all gonna have to wait. Benton's up in here. Anyway, so then he just kind of looks at me and points at the laundry machine, and I'm like, you need my permission to use the goddamn, like, what is this? And maybe he's thinking I might be using it, except where's my clothes, motherfucker? Do you see any clothes for me to put in that machine? I don't know. It looks pretty empty to me, buddy. Now I'm his brain. So NPC Normie has just fucking burst in out of nowhere, and now I'm his brain. I'm doing business as me, and I'm doing business as this bozo. Fuck out of here. But I probably could have just told him, hey man, get the fuck out of here. Come back later. Hell, he'd probably done it. That's how crazy these people are. But I can't be out here just disrespecting motherfuckers out of pocket, right? I didn't grow up that way. I can't be, it's just not appropriate. I can't be out here out of pocket disrespecting motherfuckers. Hey man, hit the bricks, come back in about 5 minutes. You won't, I won't be here. And whatever. I managed to get the quarters in the machine. And look, I'm very accepting of people letting their freak flag fly and all of this, but some fucking bozo fat trucker about my age, probably maybe in his 40s, goddamn gigantic nose piercing, like the whatever, a bull would wear, I guess. And a fucking all kind of tats and shit. Right? And I don't care, do whatever you want, but it's already like, I'd really rather not even be around anybody, at this point. But I know I'm being spiritually attacked, and to expect the accepted at the level of spiritual attack, to expect the accepted, yes. And now I got to come back, and we're going to be in there about the same time again. It happened 2 more times. We're in there at the same time, and I go back. finally to get my clothes out of the laundry. It's a 60-minute cycle, but I usually give it about 45 minutes. And I walk in, all I see is this motherfucker's ass up in the air, bent over. And I'm telling you, man, most of these people are sexual deviants, right? So I just turned around. I was like, I'm coming back. I'm gonna give it 5 minutes. Never saw him again. So I can't deal with this. I left. I was gone 5 minutes. I came back for my clothes. Now there's a black fella sitting there in the chair, and he's in my way, but he doesn't know I'm in the way. He doesn't know he's in the way. So I'm just like, hey man, and this is manners. So I'm kind of sliding over to I'm opening my dryer. I'm like, hey man, I'll be out of your way in a couple of minutes. And that's kind of his hint. He wants to move. He wants to get up. Otherwise, he's sitting in a chair. I mean, he's got his own space there. We can collaborate. I can grab my shit and get the fuck out of the way. It's fine. And see, that's the sign with the first guy that burst in. Is he perfectly burst in as I was about to shift my weight to my left foot to start bending down to pick up my trash bag. He just totally he froze me. He froze my action and then took over. It happened to me in the Walmart Christmas Eve morning. I'm standing there. They got a back to school or whatever. I've been looking for these notebooks that I don't think Walmart carries anymore. And I saw the big old line of notebooks. I said, well, shit, maybe they got my notebook. So I'm already staring at an area because I'm so visual. And here comes a lady around the corner. And of course, she's on her phone. She's oblivious. She's a he. I'm just a little girl type of woman. Well, on Christmas Eve morning, you got a pretty decent chance some gelded bozos following behind her with the cart. So, and she's like, excuse me or whatever. I'm like, yeah, okay. But I'm not unfriendly. But see, I'm frozen. Where am I going to go? I'm completely frozen. And now comes her man, almost runs into me with the cart. And then he's kind of confused, like, why is there a motherfucker standing here? And I'm like, why is there a grown-ass man following a woman around a grocery store? How's that approach? How you going to have a nation of strong men and rules and proper society, and y'all are in here, well, not y'all. They're in here following women around grocery stores. That don't compute. Huh? You know how many times my daddy followed a woman around a grocery store? I'd like to think zero. Hell, later in life, maybe he did. I'd say from up until about age 45, I'd say zero. Maybe after that, although I doubt it. And who decided going to the grocery store was a fun couples activity? I finally, with ex-wife number 2, I finally was just like, look, there's no reason for both of us to go grocery. This is crazy. Like, why are we both going grocery shopping? This is nuts. This is not fun for anybody. Flip a coin and one of us cannot have fun. Or we'll just make a list and I'll go every time. I don't give a fuck. I'll get in and get out, and maybe not come home with the magic beans. So then I realized I'm already fucking traumatized by the facial piercing, tatted up bozo. So I'm already thinking I'm just going to have to grab my clothes, throw them in my bag, and get the fuck out of Dodge. But then I realized, he's already been and gone. Oh no, I waited for him to leave. I assumed he was going to just take up the counter and fold his clothes, but I guess he just left. Meanwhile, it was such a spiritual attack, I don't think he even put soap in with his clothes. because I like to watch the machine, make sure I like to see it get soapy then before I leave. So I'm looking at his machine. I don't think he put soap in. I think at a certain point, I think the demons influenced him to go attack me and just was basically like, hey, just grab whatever bullshit's laying around your truck and go throw it in the fucking washing machine, lickety fucking split. I'm not kidding. That's how much this world makes an enemy of what I am. Make no mistake, that's the entire purpose of this vacuous, illusory, adversarial realm of business transactions. World of death and game of lies is to make an enemy of what I am. I don't care how that sounds, however it sounds. Give a fuck. So the black fella's younger, I don't know, 20s. Hard to tell. I'm old, 30 maybe. Probably 25, I'm guessing. Could be a little younger. Turns out he got kicked off the Greyhound, which what I said to him was, well, I've ridden the Greyhound enough to know you might have done something to get kicked off and you might not have. Because I've seen enough people get kicked off enough Greyhounds. He may or may not have done something to deserve it. And then once he mentioned that the bus driver was a lady, then I'm like, okay, well, because he was a decent looking black fella, young black fella, tall, handsome black fella. This old lady driving a bus on Christmas Eve, he probably represents something she don't like or something she might think she's mad at, right? Or maybe something she might like to have in her life, but she can't have. I don't know. None of my business, but this is what I think about. So as I'm folding my clothes, and I already know there's people in the so-called truth community, especially the more MAGA Christian types, church-going types, they'll just assume this is all some person pulling a scam. It's like, yeah, I have a part of my brain that can do the scam math, right? I get it. I'm aware of that the whole way through. To me, that would be paranoid. And how am I gonna want to serve, what I know myself to be and honor the nature of what I am, but then I'm going to be paranoid about getting scammed, right? It's crazy. And see, when I'm hearing him talk about how he got kicked off the bus, yeah, he could have just made the whole story up. But either way, the way he's telling the story, he was spiritually attacked. And I like to live in a world where I just take everything at face value first. And I'm able to operate on the official, and I call that the official fiction. So I operate on the official fiction level, but then I also operate on these other levels simultaneously. So if I take him at his word, then what he's describing is he was spiritually attacked. And, he's calling Greyhound, and I'm so cynical. I'm like, good luck with Greyhound customer service. Been there, done that. But for all I know, it's a fake phone. I don't know. I have no idea. Now, if it's a fake phone call, whoever he's talking to is really good at being hard to understand because English is not her first language. But either way, some of these scams can become quite elaborate. But again, I'm always going to start at the official fiction layer, and then we'll work our way down or work our way up, as the case may be. I think I'm going to have my egg drink and save the fruit for later. Thank you for your patience while I attempt to tell a story. It's not my gift, as we all know. Not one of my gifts. But arguably, I have some of the most interesting experiences, and then I'm not very good at relaying them necessarily. And I'm always looking to be helpful, but I mean actually helpful. Because I've had a lot of situations where people want to have these conversations, and maybe I'm the person who's the homeless person, or I'm being viewed as I'm in a situation, and what I've noticed is a lot of people want to pretend to be helpful, and they really just want to sort of involve themselves in the drama of the moment, and then also potentially appear to be helpful without actually being helpful. And my thing is, I'm just going to shut the fuck up, stay out of the way. And if I know I can be helpful, so I was helpful because I'm happen to be in Arkansas, and I'm familiar. It's not too far from where I'm from, and I'm familiar with the area. So this guy's from Katy, Texas. He's going to Memphis. He doesn't know where the fuck he is. He got kicked off. He got let off a bus out of Love's where there's not even a bus stop. Meanwhile, Little Rock doesn't even have a Greyhound station anymore. So, he's trying to ask me where's the bus stop. I don't know. I was like, I don't know, man. We really don't have them anymore. Turns out it's in. So he's talking to the lady on the phone. She's like, the nearest bus stop's in Bryant, Arkansas. And hell, he thinks he's in. I'm like, no, man, you're in Malvern. Bryant's like 25 miles up the road. Next door to Benton, Arkansas, as it turns out. And we have a little, and now he's on the lady's having to put him on hold and all of this. And I don't know. I think if it's not the holidays, they're probably not as accommodating to people who get kicked off the bus. But what do they care? And there's probably not that many people riding the bus on Christmas Eve and on Christmas Day. So they give him a free. It's not free. I mean, somebody already paid for his fare, but and then contractually they probably have to. They probably actually have to put him on another bus contractually. I'm guessing, or their lawyers probably strongly suggest it. So she books him onto the next bus in a few hours. And so now I know that he's got to try to get from here to there. I can't take him. And he could tell it's like, yeah, I would take you there right fucking now, except I can't. I'm not allowed to put people, I can't, not allowed to convey passengers, even if I had the passenger endorsement. The company said no, we have a no rider policy. And I'm like, good, I don't want nobody in that motherfucker anyway. And good. And I probably could have done it anyway and not gotten in trouble, and I still wouldn't be in trouble, but it's just not feasible, and this guy, he might have been homeless. And the thing is, you got so many homeless people nowadays. And one thing about the blacks, they tend to be a little more helping and accepting of their family, even if their family ends up being homeless. He's got his one piece of rolly luggage. He's got a Nike tracksuit, baby blue Nike tracksuit, which is an expensive item, except it's well worn, man. It's clean, but it's got stains on it. It's fucking well worn, But you can't tell anymore. Who knows, right? None of my business anyway. I mind my business. And so as I'm leaving with my clothes, because I'm like, hey man, I'm not trying to get your business, but at a certain point, a person just becomes curious and wants to at least see that you're not just, stuck at the fucking Malvern Loves over Christmas when, ostensibly he's supposed to go visit his family in Memphis. And as a black fella who may not be that familiar with Memphis, I mean, where I'm from is similar to Memphis culturally. I've always had a good time in Memphis. I mean, he's going to have way more fun in Memphis than Malvern. which is just, it's a nothing little town, and we're at the truck stop, which ain't, we're not even in the nothing little town. You got to travel to get to the nothing little town from here. This is just the exit off the freeway, and hang out in the laundry room the whole time. This one, it doesn't even have a seating area. This is a smaller truck stop. I don't like Love's. I don't like it. I'm against it. It sucks. That's part of why it's so shiny and new. Most of them, yes, because it sucks. The TA can be a little run down and grimy because it doesn't suck, right? I'd still rather go there. The shiny new aspects don't appeal to me. And I've gotten to where these places like Buc-ee's that are so gigantic and artificially lit and just beaming with sterile cleanliness, it turns me off. I don't like that shit. I go in there every once in a while and it's like, get me the fuck out of here. I don't even like being around them people that like to go to Buc-ee's. I might go get some brisket though. I might. We'll see. Probably not. Be my holiday feast. Quarter pound of Buc-ee's brisket. With none of the fixings. So anyway, I'm like, hey man, and it's hard to ask people these questions. You don't want to just be like, you got any money? But of course, somebody else paid for his bus ticket, and who knows? For all I know, he just travels the country scamming. I don't know. I mean, there's people that that's an actual historical grifter, by the way. There's people who just travel around on a grift all the time. I don't fucking know. I don't really care. It's Christmas Eve. So I'm like, hey man, if you want something to eat, I got points. And he's like, really? It's like, yeah, man. And just happens to be an advertisement for the Love's reward card on the wall. I point at the wall. And I'm like, yeah, man, I got like $50 on my card. I don't give a fuck. So I'm like, yeah, man, get you some food and I'll hit the bathroom over here. So it's like $12 or whatever. I pay for that. So then we get into, is there Uber? So I'm thinking people in that area probably don't regularly take Uber. And now here's the thing you'll find out if you ever think you're going to ask directions or ask a question of somebody that works in a gas station or a truck stop. They're not from there if it's on an interstate or if it's in a city of any size. Now, if it's like kind of country, that it's probably different, but it's almost 100% of the time. So when I start talking to the lady and asking her, and before she can even say I'm not from, I said, listen, I know you're not from here, but I'm just wondering if you've ever seen anybody like ordering Uber out of here, And of course, she still has to tell me, oh, I'm not from, yeah, I know you're not from here. I said, I already know if I ask somebody at a gas station or a truck stop, I already know they're not from here. That's just how that goes. I get it. Turned out she was from Phoenix. All right. Well, hadn't been in Arkansas too long. I said, well, the thing about Arkansas, there's just nothing here, but it's not too bad other than that. There's just nothing here. And so a young fellow who claims to have never taken an Uber manages, of course, these kids, I used to be good with the technology, so pretty quickly and I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be somebody who just keeps their Uber app on, who doesn't really, there's just not enough business here, but they probably do Uber Eats, they probably do DoorDash, and they probably have Uber and Lyft, and they probably monitor all of it, right? And so, a couple of times a week, they probably pick somebody up for Uber. So I'm looking at, he's got it on his screen. It's like, yeah, it says the $33 or whatever. Of course, it's $33. And because Benton knows the ways of the world, I'm like thinking to myself, well, shit, they probably have an Uber gift card up in here. So I go find an Uber gift card, put $50 on it, say, here you go, partner. Tip whatever's left over, just tip them the rest. And he was thankful. And again, if he's grifting, I don't know, he's a good actor. He plausibly convinced me that he was thankful. So who cares? I mean, does it really even matter at that point? Because if he did scam me, that's kind of on him, ain't it? Do I even care at that point? Whatever. I live in a truck. That's really all I had to say. Oh, well, I live in a truck, man. I mean, I ain't rich, but fuck this. Neither here nor there. $50. Who cares? So I'm assuming he made it. And I could also see if he actually had never ridden the Greyhound, which is possible. They will kick a motherfucker off for damn near nothing. And some of them like to kick people off, and some of them I've seen them. And I've talked to them before where I kind of felt like they were wanting to see if I would react. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I was riding a fucking bus. I had one time they were taking the tickets. The guy takes one look at my ticket and he basically said, I hope you know there's no chance in hell that you can catching your connecting bus. I said, I don't know anything. Which I felt like was a spiritual thing. I said, I don't know anything. Meaning, yeah, maybe you're right. I don't fucking know. All I know is I'm getting on this bus. Whatever happens after that, I'm getting on this bus. And just, it seemed impossible because that bus was already running behind. But somehow, some way, I made it onto the next bus. Where some actual scammers, because it was my trucking company paid for my bus ticket. They scheduled all of it. And so when I told them I wasn't going to make the connecting bus, they ordered me an Uber. And the Uber, when they figured out that I worked for a trucking company and I needed to go and it was like 100, some crazy amount of distance, like 100 miles. They tried to get me to pay them more money in cash. And I was like, look, doesn't fucking matter to me. I'm not paying for it, but I'm not doing anything. The company's going to, I'm going to go through the company. Because worst case scenario, they'll just put me in a hotel and I'll do all this tomorrow. Like, I don't give a fuck. And so in the meantime, my bus showed up. And so this guy went from kind of treating me like he had the upper hand in negotiations. And it was like a local cab company or something. These fly-by-night scumbag, trying to do like Uber Black or whatever in the middle of nowhere with like a fucking Yukon or a Denali SUV or some bullshit, that they probably got at auction with a fucking salvage title, And the cousin Jim Bob fucking did the body work on it, one of these things out in the middle of nowhere in Louisiana or some shit. So they went from that to basically like, well, we'll just more or less get in and we'll take you at the regular rate. It's like, oh no, man, I'm think I'd rather just ride the Greyhound at this point. Now I'm good on all that. Y'all can hit the brick. And they kept trying to talk me into it. And it was just like, hey, basically, I'm getting on this bus. I'll see you later. Deuces. That was more of a scam than whatever this guy had going. And if he was actually spiritually attacked, like I think he was, well, if he passed the test spiritually, maybe he's got a history of violence and he somebody tried him on the bus and he raised enough of a ruckus to get kicked off, but then, you know, did not commit another violent felony or whatever. And, you know, why is he being spiritually attacked in the first place? Well, again, that's the spirit of what I am. So it's not me doing anything for somebody else, really. It's, you know, it's again, worshiper and worship, an object of worship contained within the same space, you know. And people that like that, we are all one on the highest level rhetoric or some namaste type shit, you know, that's the actual spirit of what that's supposed to mean, you know, and it doesn't happen very often. And who am I to be like, oh, well, it could be a scam, so I'm not going to spend $50 that I don't give a shit about in the first place. It's frivolous to me. I'll throw a 20 out the window, right? It doesn't fucking matter. Like, for real. Who cares? It's dead money Christmas, man. This money is nothing. It really is just nothing. It's paper. It's trash. As we're seeing. It's trash. Well, there is no happenstance in a world that makes an enemy of what I am. And I'm sure that's what people will say, happenstance. Now, the happenstance is the positive aspects, right? That's what seems serendipitous. So I think actually, I'm probably just reading your comment out of sequence. It's probably been too long since I made that comment, Leslie. Yeah, it's a serendipitous. You know, the spirit seems to work serendipitously. The realm that makes an enemy of what I am operates on the lack of serendipity, which ends up being there are no coincidences, right? And it often spiritually attacks based on timing, you know, which is Benton goes into a rest area bathroom to wash out his eyeballs, and when he's at his weakest moment physically, you know, washing his hands and you know, he's down at the sink. Here comes the guy that works there cleaning the bathrooms on Christmas Eve day, and it's dead as a doornail. I think maybe there's one guy in there taking a grumpy. Some weirdo grunting. Heavy breathing grunting in the stall of the rest area. Can you just imagine? Y'all ever wonder why I might seek an alternate means more often than not? Yeah, let me go in there and be around some heavy breathing fucking grunters at the rest area. I don't think so. But you know, you got the why, and see, this is not an accident. Why, when I bend down to the sink, why is my face in the goddamn soap dispenser? Why is my head next to the soap dispenser? This is not on accident. So I detect the person next to me is using the other soap dispenser. And I have these experiences where if I'm at a sink, there's an extremely high likelihood some NPC normie's about to come put their hand in my face. Because like at Echo Lake Park in Los Angeles, no matter what, I will be using the sink that actually has soap, or none of them have soap. And the person goes to the other sink, they think they're about to get soap out. There's no soap. And they just, without thinking or regarding that I'm there, they just reach out and put their hand in my face to try to get soap. And I'm just looking at them like, hey, man, could you pretty please with sugar on top not approach the side of my corneas with your motherfucking fingers? Like, why are their fingers entering my field of vision, headed straight for my fucking eyeball? That should never happen. I would never do that to somebody. Ever. in a million years. Ever. Wouldn't dream of it. So as he's over there, I just, I don't have no frame of reference. I think it's probably some bozo that showed up. Now he's washing his hands. It's the motherfucker that cleans the bathrooms. He knows that goddamn dispenser is full because he checked it 30 minutes ago. He knows it's not empty. So the entire reason he's checking them is because I'm there. That's it. It's the only reason. So next thing I know, he's popping open the one that's within 2 inches of my face. And I'm just like, hey, man, I'm standing here. Like, what are you doing? But then, so I did lash out in anger briefly, a little brief flash of anger. But then I look at his face and he's tickled pink. He couldn't be happier with himself. He's like a pig in shit, as they say. Just the contented look on his face, because he got the exact reaction out of me that he wanted. Now, all the various practices and the true knowledge of self, I didn't give him anything beyond that. And then, I got to spend the next 20 to 30 minutes sort of dealing with whatever was going on within me because I actually experienced some anger, you know, which has become quite rare for me these days to experience anger at all. And then I realized, well, I probably am a little cranky. It is Christmas Eve after all. Historically, I've been fairly emotional on the holidays and tend to isolate, drink heavily to some extent, or actually drink in moderation. But if I was by myself, the heavy drinking is if I was around other people, like a coping mechanism. Or, doing Christmas with the wife and her family. Oh, I would just get faced. And I had an ability to get shit faced and not embarrass myself too bad. And meanwhile, I'm fully capable of embarrassing myself stone cold sober. So what's the difference? Or Benton is, I should say. Benton in the context of the performance certainly is. But yeah, the realm is a lack of serendipity, which ends up being what seems coincidental, but it happens so often and so in such mathematically unlikely ways that it can't ever be coincidental. That's this realm attempting to manifest in ways that are serendipitous. But the realm is the lack of serendipity. Serendipity is contained within what I am. Serendipity. And he got so close to me, I feel like I could have just put my palm of my hand on his chest and pushed him out of my space. And I don't think if the authorities were called and if I described exactly what happened, I don't think that would be, I really don't think they would consider it a crime. I'm not even kidding. Although technically I think it would be. It's like, yeah, you can't put your hands on somebody. It's like, yeah, he's probably not supposed to be getting that physically close to me either, because at some point, can I just walk around to strangers going, I'm not touching you, and put my finger 1 millimeter from the side of their, like, that's also not going to be allowed. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure I could have just put my hand on his abdomen or his upper chest, his upper abdomen, and just pushed him out of my space, and it would have been fine. That's how close he got to me. But when that happened in the bathroom, it was pretty quickly. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the you know to accept this level of spiritual attack without expecting it is crazy. So yeah, it's my fault for not expecting for this to happen. I should just know when I put my face down next to the sink, this is what's going to happen. Of course, once I expect it, it's probably not going to happen because then shields will be up, right? And to let one's guard down, this realm always kicks a fella when they're down. It never fails to kick one when one is down. Ever. And it happens time after time after time after time after time. Yeah, I understand confirmation bias and all these things. This is not that. This is mathematically, I could win the motherfucking lottery with these odds at a certain point. It's a lottery winner odds of this happening. It's so unlikely. Again, waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. So yeah, I think that was most of the stories I've had for recently. Untold stories. Well, and the Agent Smith thing, that's a helpful way to think about it. Uh, However, that's part of it, certainly. Um, and at the risk of criticizing Leslie, I might be interacting with these people a little more frequently than you are. I don't know what your daily habits are. I don't know, not knowing somebody else's life, right? And it's not a criticism. It's the for better or for worse, old Benton's autistic ass is choosing to put himself into these public scenarios time after time after time, and you know, there's really no way other than just remaining vigilant all the time. But then I'm getting better and better and better at just sort of catching myself. Some of the time I will catch myself right before I go into the laundry room, sort of. Because I have this tendency to go off into la la land to get lost in my own thoughts. Or it's not even thoughts necessarily. It's that rich inner landscape, you know, and that's almost always preferential to whatever's going on in the environment. So it's a little self-serving in that way. But I could certainly train myself to be more vigilant. But if I simultaneously, sometimes it doesn't even bother me. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's right. That thing that happens more often than not is happening again. There really is no difference. Like, what's the difference? Like, there's really no difference. Either way, it's a vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions. We're really just getting into what's my preference and why do I even have a preference? You know, what's the difference? Spiritually attacked or not spiritually attacked? What's the difference? Go in public every day around some Agent Smiths, or don't go around in public around some Agent Smiths. Like, what's the difference? There's really not a difference. And then, in a spiritual warrior way, as in the dead flesh of a man with, a completely indifferent makeup and all of this, just the absurdity of manhood as a concept, in some ways, Benton prefers that competitive, competing against myself, and eventually I just won't be triggered. It just won't be triggerable. I'll just be looking at somebody like, really? We're trolling again? Like, what is this? Don't y'all know this don't work on me anymore? Because I've had people come to my chat recently and try to trigger me, and absolutely what they're doing would have triggered me a year ago, and now I'm just like, okay, well, that shit don't work no more. But and it says more about them than it does about me in that way. Now it actually exposes them. Like, okay, well, maybe this felt a certain type of way in the past. It felt meaningful. It's just neither here nor there. It's like, okay, well, there's a normie NPC Agent Smith bozo doing a thing. Okay, well, what's the fucking difference? That's just what they do on some level. The proverbial "forgive them for they know not what they do" type shit. All right. I was going to pull off onto the shoulder of the on ramp, but here's a truck stop, so I guess I might as well pull in there. There's a sex store in Arkansas. I can remember when there were basically no fucking places that sold that type of material in this whole state. And if there were, they damn sure weren't in your face visible off the interstate. But let's keep trying to pretend like society is what it was in, 1950 or whatever. It's like, well, in 1950, that thing wasn't there. And if it was hidden in the shadows. But let's pretend like there's some possibility of returning to, this supposedly, simpler time of the past. It's not a thing, man. It's just not. It's the same, and that world was degenerate. This world is arguably more degenerate, but it wasn't good in 1950, and now it's degenerate. It was degenerate in 1950. And why was it supposedly good in 1950? Because the American government sent American troops to other parts of the world to murder people. That's what made it a good society. I don't think so. What would Jesus do? They say, well, support the troops. I say, what would Jesus do? I think he'd support all the troops. You think Jesus would support American troops but oppose the enemies? Well, what are you talking about? You talking about Jesus of Nazareth from the Bible? Nazareth? That feller? And I don't know that he would support the troops, but I think you understand the point I'm making. And then what wouldn't Jesus do also? Which is a little more interesting. I don't think he'd be driving a big rig. So that's my sign that I've got more work to do spiritually. So back to what Leslie's saying, for old Benton, I seem to require, at least for the time being, these types of interactions to sort of sharpen my sword, right? Reminds me of that supposed great samurai sword fighter that won all them duels at Musashi or whatever. I've never looked into it. I've just Googled it and read some stuff, but and who knows, whether this was real or not. It's like, yeah, it's a realm of delusion anyway. So, I mean, on some level, none of it's happening. So, like, what are we even talking about? Well, and I see what Leslie's talking about down there, and the trick with that is none of that can touch the spirit of what I am. And so I'm not discounting or dismissing the validity of what's being asserted. I'm saying that, and it's with respect to, how the realm may be operated, on behalf of that which makes an enemy of what I am. Because remember, I'm the real thing. What I am is the real thing. It's the target. It's the source. See? So in fact, whatever's being done is being done in relation to what I am as frame of reference within delusion, right? Based on a legalese and a supplanting, or to invert and to have curse stand in for blessing, right? So that's where we get into the true knowledge of self. Self-realization is to understand that, number one, what I am can't even experience fear. Again, only within delusion in the context of the subversion of the creative force of what I am on behalf of antithesis, Moloch, Moloch's machine, all of these things. Is it even after being sacrificed as a baby, right, to this corporate slave system of death, a protracted experience of death? Well, what I am will never know death. It never knew a birth. It certainly will never know a death. And I say, well, Benton surely will experience that. Benton is experience. The whole experience is death. None of it is not death. Anything that's not death is what I am. See? So what we individually and then collectively think of as this world and these experiences is death. It is this world, and this world is a dead world. And in fact, isn't even real, because we have to talk about waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. That has to be there. And the only sin, so-called, that I end up committing of late is to temporarily forget myself and to too strongly identify with this world as if it was as it says it is. The world is a lie. The world never isn't lying to you, ever. And this is what's difficult to face. There was never a day that your parents didn't lie to you. Now, did they lie to themselves first? Sure. I mean, I'm not even saying they did anything wrong. I mean, once they sacrificed me to Moloch, I mean, what's the difference? Might as well lie to me every day. But again, what is one of the reasons why Benton is hated in his own family? Because I didn't make another person and sacrifice them to Moloch. That's why. And I'm a reflection and a reminder of their own guilt and shame, symbolically, because as far as I can tell, the human mind perfectly, the subconscious mind perfectly decodes all symbols. There's no way my so-called loved ones don't understand this. They all were sacrificed to Moloch. They then replicated and sacrificed a symbol of spiritual innocence and perfection known as a baby. They sacrificed that to Moloch, and I didn't. So I can never fit in with them, and I will never not remind them of their own guilt and shame. There's nothing I can do about it. My own mother hates my guts on some level because I remind her of my father, but she doesn't hate him because she's still attracted to him. Even though they split up years ago, they get along fine. I can't hardly have a conversation with her in person because I have the same facial expressions as my father, and just my facial expressions can cause her to burst into tears. Like, hey, bitch, I didn't choose to look just like this motherfucker. Say, y'all did this. But again, what does this world do? This world treats what I am as if it's always guilty. There's never a moment where this world will ever treat what I am as if it was not guilty of something. And that's been a big key to help me be able to function to the level at which I'm able to function, is to understand it's normal that this world is not permitted because of what this world serves and what it represents symbolically. It's not allowed to treat Benton in the context of the performance. It has to treat Benton like he's guilty because in the eyes of this world, Benton is guilty. But symbolically, my own family understands their own guilt and shame. There's no way they don't. Do they logically in their conscious minds? No, probably not. Look how long it took me to figure all of this out. And I took it to the streets for over 10 years and just walked around thinking all day for the most part. For years. And, undertook daily spiritual practices of my own design, right? And I've done all of this. And most of y'all haven't, and that's okay. My family damn sure hasn't. Now, maybe they have here and there to some. Nobody has to the extent I've done it, not in my family. And I haven't seen it in the truth community, and that's okay. I don't know that it's supposed to be an entire society of spiritual seekers, so-called, and practitioners, right? I don't know if that's the purpose. Well, I shouldn't say that. Every man hath not the same office. If that's my function, and I'm pretty sure it is, or part of my function, that doesn't mean that's what everybody's supposed to do. And then how often have you ever gotten into a conversation? Go try to have a spiritual themed conversation with a stranger who will pretty quickly say, well, our purpose. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We don't have a purpose, sir. Our purpose, especially if they're talking in a Christian context, I'm just like, hey, man, the book says every man hath not the same office. How is my function your function and vice versa? Like, what are you talking about? And until that correction process occurs, the being who might want to use the metaphysically useful aspects of Christianity with respect to their own internal spiritual practice, they can't do that because they're lost in the sauce of the brainwashing and the rhetoric. They can't maneuver, they can't extract themselves from the quagmire and the morass of that. Well, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. It took me a long motherfucking time to even be able to think about these concepts. Because once the concepts were attached to Christianity, and then the damage was done to me via those means, I had to grow and change and evolve and heal over a period of many years to even be able to face this stuff within myself. I used to just be filled with rage. Somebody could walk up to me and say, have you accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, or whatever they say, which I've never said to anybody and I never will. That used to fill me with rage. And eventually I realized, well, setting rage to the side, I can still, I'm one of the few people that can be filled with rage and still behave somewhat logically and still think at a certain point. It's what it comes down to is I recognize that these morons, I couldn't out argue them in the moment when they came at me with their ridiculous come on. So then I got interested enough in the actual doctrine and dogma to study it enough because I wanted to be able to counteract these bozos if they approached me trying to preach at me and proselytize. See? And now it's a child's play. Because when somebody wants to say, well, our purpose is to do, I'm like, what do you mean our purpose? The book says every man hath not the same office, which I take to mean my function is not your function and vice versa. So it's like, what are we talking about, sir? How could you have any knowledge of my purpose? So we don't have a purpose. So I might meet a Christian from the Congo who his purpose is to replicate, multiply, and be fruitful. That has nothing to do with my purpose. Nothing whatsoever to do. It's not the same thing, sir. Be fruitful and multiply. Oh, you mean make the tree good or make the tree rotten? And we know the tree by the fruit. We get into metaphor pretty quickly, don't we? Does it mean literally make a bunch of children? Because don't some of the if we talk about children as fruit, yeah, they start out spiritually perfected and innocent, but then they grow into what? Stockholm syndrome adults who've been sacrificed to Moloch. And then what does that fruit represent by the time they're 30 years old or 40 years old? Right? What's your average Christian represent at the level of the fruit? Just go pick a random Christian and let's judge the fruit. Because they say, well, judge not lest ye be judged. You know the tree by the fruit. How am I going to know the tree if I don't judge the fruit? So maybe the words have multiple meanings, and maybe they have a different meaning in a different context, and maybe discernment and, dare I say, wisdom are required. And maybe when they say judge not lest ye be judged, maybe it actually means condemn, or because part of the meaning of the word judge is to pass sentence on. And so we're already assuming that the sentence is going to be a sentence of condemnation. Because when we say judge not lest ye be judged, well, what if the judgment is your innocence? Well, why would I fear a judgment if I know that what I am can never be judged guilty? So, and I'm just going to say it. Good luck outthinking old Benton. In the moment, sure, not that hard. I haven't met anybody in the so-called truth community that has observably outthought me in the long run. I haven't seen it. I've interfaced with a bunch of people who I know and they know have access to greater forms of intellect and intelligence in the moment and in the short period of time. I haven't ran into anybody capable of outthinking me in the long run. So maybe on some level I am Mushashi, living humbly, going place to place, subsisting at a meager level, right? And meanwhile, occasionally unsheathing the sword of the word of God and then winning and vanquishing all opponents. Because what I am will never know defeat. And is that really all Mushashi was somebody who came into true knowledge of self early enough to understand that, well, as long as he doesn't falsely identify with this realm and things that are not what he is, then he can't be defeated. And if one day, I don't know, did he meet his end? Did he finally get so aged that his reflexes didn't work well enough? And did somebody finally pierce his side with a sword? And if Mushashi understood that the flesh is dead anyway, well, how could that ever represent defeat? The sword of the so-called enemy piercing the flesh, how's that defeat? Oh, you mean I don't get to continue to experience I don't continue to go on within a protracted experience of death? Oh no, don't threaten me with a good time. What am I ever to do? You mean I'm not going to be here tomorrow to see what shows up on my YouTube feed? Oh, the horror. The horror. The humanity. And people watch the movie The Godfather and don't understand the role of the consigliere. See? And I said early on when Leslie started showing up over here, I said, And there was some jealousy amongst, we used to have a 40% female audience. There started to be some jealousy. I said, that's my consigliere. Would you would you leave my consigliere alone if that's okay? I mean, I understand there's going to be infighting and jockeying for position. That's just called humanity. But could you leave and that person may say, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not my function. What I'm saying is, if you watch those movies, Michael and also his father, they had the same consigliere actually at the end. You know, whoever, it was Tom, who presumably based on the age of Marlon, you know, the actual Godfather would have been, probably had a different consigliere. It's a person who has their head in the game, who understands, perhaps even at a greater level, but within the context of Benton the performer, isn't performing. Tom wasn't doing anything within the context of the Godfather's activities. Tom was operating within the context of his life. Again, we're back to the individual experience, wholly individual experience spiritually. So when I say consigliere, I'm the one making the decisions and calling the shots within the context of wholly individual experience spiritually, and because it has to be that way. As a creepy trucker watches me in my mirror, perfectly positioned. That never happened. It's that it's a benefit to me to have access to different approaches to the same, what is arguably the same phenomenon. And then the Godfather has the skin in the game. He's the one that will triumph or fail based on what he does with the information. Same thing for any of us. And that's the individual nature of the experience. I don't have any skin in your game. You don't have any skin in my game. And if another person is right or wrong, some of the time, all I'm worried about is, are they mostly on the money? Because the Godfather can't be the Godfather unless occasionally Tom says some wrong shit. The Godfather's going to be able to understand, well, that ain't quite right. Or from Tom's perspective, it is right. But Tom not having skin in this game, you know, outside of a criminal conspiracy anyway, of a fictional movie, right? It's always up to the Godfather. It's always up to old Ben. See? And vice versa. It's just how it goes. Especially if Christians want to try to operate, and I don't mean Leslie, but if Christians want to try to operate within a context of judgment and redemption, right? And where do you know where you're going to go when you die? Motherfucker, you're dead now. Do you know where you are? Do you know where you are? You're in the jungle, baby. You're gonna die in the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Knees. That's the sacrifice to Moloch, to put you on your knees. Every knee shall bow. This world knows that. This world don't care if you bow your knee to the spirit of what I am. And maybe that's the spirit of what you are. all it cares about in the final analysis is, are you bending the knee to it, to death, to curse? That's all it cares about. So, welcome to the jungle is almost a truth drop. No, the flesh is dead. The, this so-called life is death. This is death. This is, if not underworld, this is a crossroad. This is an in-between. This is it's not a hell realm, it's a heaven or hell realm. Because as far as I can tell, the being has access to both from here. See? And many folks are uh, undeniably existing in a hell of their own creation within this delusory and illusory realm, and it's not debatable. I've seen it, you've seen it, we've all seen it. Some have lived it, some continue to live it. Half the point of these broadcasts is I need somebody in my ear. You know, this old story of Alexander the Great, supposedly, and again, it's just look, I don't even know the actual story. This is just what I gleaned from what somebody told me about it. So I don't know who even knows. And again, apocryphal, certainly. And did it even happen? Well, even if it actually happened with respect to historicity, it's still in the context of a world of a world of death and a game of lies and a vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions. So what's the difference? And even then, we must account for waking dreams, surrealistic unreality. But it was this idea that Alexander the Great understood he more or less needed somebody in his ear all day reminding him that he was only a mortal man. Because otherwise, left to his own devices, he would tend to just, you know, feel himself a little too much, right? Too ambitious. See, so part of this is I need to be told every day, hey, yeah, man, you need to remind yourself about that waking dream, surrealistic unreality, because look how easy it is to go right back to identifying with this world. And I realized it this morning when I woke up. I was like, yeah, I've been a little too strongly identified with the realm here lately. Gonna have to correct that. And these broadcasts, it's helpful. Certain people's even if I'm not reading the chat down there, I have a part of my brain that can sort of just skim along and kind of fill in the gaps. But yeah, and we're all different, precious little snowflakes, unique snowflakes. It's like, it's up to each of us to figure out what is it we need and how to get it. And as I drive by and look over, and it's at the Murphy Oil, the diesel price is $3.03. They love to put that 303 out there for the gas price. You'll see a 302 on occasion. You might see a 305, but more often than not, it's a 303. I've noticed. And another faggot is perfectly possession. I don't use that word very often. Another faggot has perfectly positioned themselves to watch my lit up face in the mirror. Because I'm telling you, man, these people will watch anything. And they've done studies, and monkeys, when given a choice, would rather press a button and look at the face of the alpha monkey than to press another button and get rewarded with like a sugary, tasty drink or whatever. They'd prefer to look at the face of the alpha or an alpha. And I'm not saying that I'm that, but, these people seem to think I am, or that Benton is, or that his face is. It's getting to where I can't even hardly go in public. I see why my first wife was fattening me up. Now that I'm trimming up again, the thinner my face gets, the more it's like I'm famous when I go in public. If any famous person walks into an environment, most people are just going to directly look at them. When I gain a little too much weight, when I gain a little too much of the wrong type of weight, my face rounds out a little bit, puffs up. Yeah, I still get looked at and stared at, but we reach a point where it's like a significant portion of the populace just looks me dead in my face. And I'm like, all right, well, this is fucking weird. Or I come around the corner I come around the corner at the aisle of the Walmart and I'm looking directly at, some woman who was attractive when she was younger, who's about my age, and we're directly looking at each other. Of course, she's got some bozo following her around the Walmart, or maybe somebody she knows trying to chat her up. And I already know I got to just stare this bitch down. Otherwise, she's going to think we're playing some flirty game. And next thing I know, she's going to be following me all around the fucking store. Or now that she's already got a fella talking to her, she might try to maneuver things to where she's going to try to suck me into that. I've had that happen. So I was like, all right, I really don't want to stare this bitch down, but I know I've already got her full attention. And I don't mean bitch, I mean it as a term of endearment. Please understand, when I drop the B word, it's almost always a term of endearment. I hardly ever mean it. I'm way more likely to drop a C than I am. If I'm being derogatory, I usually skip right to the C. B is typically a term of endearment. And I've noticed a lot of the women, especially the ones I've been in relationships with, their version of that for me is this motherfucker. This motherfucker. Exactly. Lady, I understand the absurdity of what you're dealing with. Believe me, I understand the absurdity of performing as a man. And I certainly could. I can't relate as a woman, but I can have some measure of empathy for her plight. In again, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, and that's true. It's worse. Most of them want a man. Imagine having a desire for something that ridiculous and absurd on his face. I mean, come on. I'm Benton, born into this, if we account for waking dreams to realistic unreality, air quotes, born into this, buy the ticket, take the ride. I'm pot committed, right? Old Benton ain't never going to go live an alternative lifestyle, not fully anyway. Even living as a homeless person, it still was sort of a, anthropologically, Jane Goodall studying the fucking gorillas or whatever. Gorillas in the Jane Goodall mist, Yeah, born alone, leave alone. That's right. And it's not even a birth. It's an insertion. Meanwhile, how did every person get here? Insert slot A into tab B or whatever, right? It's an insertion. Artificial. Artificial. It's partially artificial. This so-called, experience within this matrix. And I don't think it's a coincidence that womb is another word for matrix, somewhat interchangeably. Well, there you go. I like that, Leslie. Leslie says, well, not for me. I have thousands of other selves. And of course, because this is a vacuous, illusory, adversarial realm of business transactions, I can't read the rest of the comment because there's a literal $ placed over the top of it so that I can click a button and recommend StreamYard to everybody. Because there's nothing whatsoever at a collective or external level that's not tied up in business transacting. So if you believe it's possible for there to be meaning born out of the transacting of business, then I guess there is a potential for external meaning in this realm. I don't share your opinion. Not you, Leslie. I just mean broadly as I eat the grapes. And see, a basic way of understanding how to think is to recognize that humans, more often than not, place an incorrect value on consensus. Because when I read some of Leslie's comments, many, if not most, I agree with, meaning, I see the truth, and it resonates with me at a level of validation within myself. But then the times that doesn't happen, I understand the proper value of consensus. And so what I observe in most humans is they seek consensus and they seek to operate within consensus, which may or may not be fine, except they themselves don't have an understanding of the value of consensus or lack thereof. Right? They don't understand the consensus. They don't understand the value. And they don't understand that it's up to them to properly assign the value. Right? Because when I see that it's not appropriate to allow society to dictate to me and make all of these choices for me with respect to these values, well, now there's nobody left other than me to assign the values. Now it's on me. Skin in the game. Skin in the game. Y'all can talk about, not you, the listener. The so-called truth community can lecture me on arrogance and pride and so-called ego all at once. I'd say probably 5 times a week, I experience some sort of just brilliant epiphany, and it's neither here nor there. I don't stop and go, wow, I really am a smart motherfucker. I don't even identify with it. I just think, wow, that is fucking pretty insightful and brilliant. I'm going to make use of that. And then I move on with my so-called life. I don't allow it to become my identity. I don't go around trying to convince everybody of Benton's brilliance. Right? That's humility. So when I'm accused of arrogance or pride, but no, it's not arrogance. It's a lack of humility in this moment, which, by the way, might be appropriate. Am I supposed to be, as a dynamic being, am I supposed to always inhabit a state of humility? I don't think so. That damn sure doesn't resonate with the spirit of what I am. And then if you talk about love and love itself, in this inverted world, we treat lack of love as if it's the default. And that the being needs to be coached up and trained to choose to express love. That's a psychopath. That's what a psycho. That's how a psychopath would think. Love defaults to the expression of love, and anything that doesn't isn't love. And if it isn't love, it's antithesis or antichrist or lack of love. Every knee shall bow, make the tree good or make the tree rotten. Better hot or cold, the lukewarm spat out of the mouth. There is no middle ground. I'm either love or I'm not. Period. Have you considered my servant Job? Well, he's either love or he's not, so fuck it. I'm not doing anything. Let's find out. He's one or the other. The enemy understands, well, all I got to do is convince this motherfucker that it's situational, right? And then we get into trust, you know. Love, trust that it's going to express based on its own nature. It's not fearful. It's not hesitant. It's not worried about, well, what if I do this, that, and the other, and I end up not expressing love? That can't be love. So if that thought form exists and is given any attention, it prevents Nancy Pelosi's MS-13 spark of divinity from expressing in the first place. And they can't see the trap. Well, what I am sees it. Now we see through a glass darkly. The royal we. I'll take it a step further. Leslie says, you feel it within, you'll know. I've never not felt it. The true knowledge of self is to understand that's what I am. I am that thing. I am that one. And there's a lot of truth in the Gospels of Christ. And when they accused him, because remember, Christ wasn't free to speak. He couldn't just speak his mind. And half of that acting like a sissy was probably just to try to get along in society to some extent. And even if that was even real. And again, I'm going official fiction with it, but they was trying to gather information, they're trying to get evidence, and they're trying to use his own statements against him. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law and legalese, lest we forget. And they said, well, yeah, we'll acknowledge in secular religion is what it is. It's the secular religious authorities, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They said, yeah, well, okay, clearly he's casting these demons out of people, but maybe he's doing it in the name of Beelzebub. And so people have misunderstood, as I misunderstood, the meaning when Christ said, if hate drives out hate, then Satan's kingdom is divided against itself, and how can it stand? The actual message that Christ was conveying, now he's right, the actual message he's conveying is when he says, what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life, no one comes unto, quote, the Father. Remember, he wouldn't have been free to say true knowledge of self, except through me, meaning what? Christ consciousness. What he meant was that is an indivisible force. It can never be individuated. You can't break off a piece of it. It cannot divide itself. So when Christians talk about a Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, that's not possible. Only within the context of a realm of delusion are those concepts even seemingly possible. There can't be a Father, God, man in the sky. It's not possible. And little old country sounding Benton can prove it with logic. Prove it. Because if God is love and love is an indivisible force, you can't divide it. Meaning, just by hearing a concept of a so-called divided Godhead, here's your sign. You're in delusion. You are experiencing delusion. That notion is delusion. So you better get damned skilled at operating within delusion. So what is Jack Talcott? I think probably some high-level fucking sorcerer of the art of operating within delusion, but on behalf of antithesis, in service of anti-Christ. And because I've studied enough ideology, because I have enough of a strategic brain, because I've read a thing or two, I've heard Jack Talcott out of his own mouth espouse certain ideology and thought to myself, that's Satanism or Luciferianism. People hear it and either don't understand that or pretend not to. I'm like, and I don't even watch this channel or listen to it. I'm talking about like a short showed up in my feed. It was Jack Talcott. Somebody else remixed it or whatever. And so I listened to it, some YouTube short, and I'm like, yeah, it's Satanism. Oh, clearly. Antichrist. And this world is Antichrist. And because of a book, a dead book called the Holy Bible, that can't ever be the so-called Word of God. That ain't possible. It's dead words on a dead page. But because of the way it's written, it has many people confused and convinced of a lie, right? That, oh, well, there's going to come, because of prophecy, there's going to be a being, in human form, and it's Satan itself and all of this and Antichrist. Yeah, the world that functions as Antichrist, that's what's telling you that lie. So let's believe it because it apparently got wrote down in a book thousands of years ago. When the spirit of what I am can just look around and say, well, if what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life, and this world makes an enemy of that, what I am, then this world is Antichrist. So what are we even talking about? But if the psychology can convince the person, well, everything's more or less okay today, but look out because that Antichrist is working behind the scenes and he's going to show up at some point. It's the same reason people say, oh, look, the economy's going to collapse. Things sure are getting bad. Oh, well, people are eventually going to get fed up and, throw off the chains of the oppressor. No, they're not. That's never going to happen. If they were going to do that, they would already have thrown off the chains of their own oppression within themselves. They won't even do that. How are they going to how are they going to cast off the chains of the oppression of the external realm if they can't even do it inside of themselves or won't? Well, and that's what, and Leslie says human illusion too. See, this world, it is the subversion of the creative force of what I am. That's the engine. That's what perpetuates and propels this thing. See, it is Neo in the tank. That's what it is. That powers the entire world. It's just that's a visual representation. Neo didn't understand up until that point that his own life force, and I mean actual life, not human life, that is subverted on behalf of antithesis or antichrist into running everything, operating the world. And Leslie talked about having peace and a place. I'm assuming she means her place to live and all of this. And that's great. Because again, every man or woman hath not the same office. My peace is the knowledge and understanding directly that there's nothing this world can do to me. This world has no power whatsoever over what I am. None. This world can't do anything to me. Nothing. There's nothing this world can do to me. That's victory, folks. This world of death and these games of life can't touch what I am. What I got, better get some, get on up. Hustler of culture. Snake bit, been bit in the face. And the rhymes keep hitting. How you living? Never question what I am. God knows, because it comes from the heart. And so when we look at dystopian society and people are, things have gotten to a point where individuals seem to believe that, well, there's going to be some kind of reckoning or revolution or what have you. It's pretty simple. Stop creating a dystopia. And guess what? There won't be a dystopia. There cannot be a dystopia unless collective humanity creates a dystopia, right? If dystopia requires big rigs to be driven long haul, humans are continuing to perpetuate dystopia by driving big rigs long haul, right? So do humans oppose dystopia or are they in favor of dystopia? Well, based on what humans are doing, humans are in favor of dystopia. They don't oppose it. Just like I told the people in Echo Park, Los Angeles, I said, you can't be anti-ICE and you can't be against the government deportations and simultaneously work a job and pay taxes. How do you think ICE is funded? I said, you can't be against a thing while you support it. Obviously. I told it to their faces. I said, yeah, you can paint graffiti that says ICE out of LA or fuck ICE on every wall. If the graffiti artist punches a clock and pays taxes, right? And they used to try to run me off because I'd be outside some local business. I said, listen, why would I have respect for a business that's paying for all of this evil? And now I've said it strategically just to get them to leave me alone. But meanwhile, if they just ask me nicely, I'll always freely choose to go on down the street. But if they think they're going to be authoritarians and order me about, that's never going to work. If you think business is down because I'm here, I don't know what to tell you. There wasn't nobody here when I got here. You think they're staying away because I'm talking? This is LA. This is a trendy cafe. Homeless people could be taking poops on the sidewalk across the street, and that ain't going to stop nobody from going to a trendy spot. I promise you. They're trying to see and be seen. They're trying to take selfies. It's all about them. They'll just pretend not to see the homeless derelict across the street. You don't want ice? Quit paying for it. Pretty simple. There you go. Yep, telepathically perceive. I like that. Yep. Well, yeah, there you go. There's no need of speech for telepathic perceptions. And, you know, just look at the English language and the way it's designed. It's clearly, more of a detriment than a benefit. Clearly, just the confusion of the language itself. That can't be an accident, right? Anyway, how long have I been yapping? 2.5 hours. That's enough. I'm out. Bah humbug. Bye.